My name is Isabel Dela Cruz. I'm 16 years old, a junior student at Roosevelt High School in Quezon City. Most days I'm just a quiet girl. I sit in the middle row, I keep my head down, I try not to draw attention. But on October 22nd, 2024, my whole world ended. It began like every other weekday. The sound of jeepneys rumbling outside our apartment, the soft clinking of pans in the kitchen as Mom reheated leftover rice, the cold tiles under my feet as I rushed to the sink to brush my teeth. I was running late, again. I'd stayed up all night reviewing for a history quiz. Names, dates, revolutions, war generals, none of which I remembered anymore. All I cared about was not failing. Because in my head, college was my way out. Out of our tiny one-bedroom unit. Out of this city that never slept. Out of the poverty that clung to our walls like peeling paint. My mom, Aling Rosa, was doing her best. She worked double shifts at the sari-sari store, then cleaned offices downtown. She never complained even when her hands were raw from bleach. I knew she was tired, but she smiled anyway. All she wanted was for me to have a better life. That morning she left early. She kissed my forehead, whispered "Ingat anak," and vanished out the door. I was alone. I stood in front of the mirror in our bedroom, running a cheap plastic comb through my tangled hair. My uniform was wrinkled. My eyes were puffy. I looked like a zombie, but a zombie ready for a pop quiz. And then it happened. A sudden crushing weight slammed into my chest. Not like sadness, not like fear. Like something invisible had wrapped its arms around my heart and squeezed hard. My lungs couldn't expand. I gasped for air, but nothing came. My vision blurred. I tried to scream, but my throat locked. I stumbled backward, knocked over a chair, and hit the floor. Silence. The kind of silence that feels thick. Like the world paused just for you. Everything faded. My breathing stopped. Time vanished. But here's the strange part. I wasn't afraid. Instead, this calm washed over me. It was like floating in warm water, like that feeling when you're 5 years old and your mom tucks you in during a storm. Peace. Total, perfect, overwhelming peace. I realized I was no longer inside my body. I could see myself lying there on the cold floor. My lips were turning blue. My hand was stretched out like I had tried to reach for help. But no one was there. Then I saw something else. My mother, she had come back. She was kneeling beside me, her phone on speaker with 911, sobbing and screaming my name. Her hands were shaking as she tried to remember how to do CPR. She kept repeating, "Please, not my baby. Please, God, no." I wanted to hold her, to tell her I was okay, but I couldn't touch anything. I couldn't speak. I could only watch. Tears welled up in my eyes. Wait, did I still have eyes? Was I still crying, or was it just my soul aching? The apartment walls dissolved. The floor beneath me faded into light. Everything around me dimmed, like the end of a movie. And then I felt it, a presence, someone, or something far greater than me. The light grew brighter, not blinding, no, it was gentle. Soft, yet it reached through me like sunlight through clear water. My feet, or whatever I now had instead of feet, touched something that felt like grass. But it shimmered with white light. Each blade pulsed softly beneath me as though alive, breathing. There were no buildings, no streets, no noise. Just silence. But not empty, it was full of something I couldn't name yet. Then I felt it. A shift in the atmosphere, like the wind had changed. Like the entire place knew something holy was approaching. And suddenly I wasn't alone. I didn't see him at first. I felt him. Before I even turned around, my soul already knew he was here. His presence was overwhelming. Not in a scary way, but in a way that made my knees go weak. My heart feel exposed, my very being fall silent in reverence. When I finally turned, I saw him. He didn't look like the paintings I'd seen in Sunday school or the statues in old churches. He looked real. More real than anything I'd ever known. He looked like he could be in his 20s. Shoulder-length hair, dark and soft eyes, like oceans mixed with stars. A face so radiant, I almost wept just seeing it. And that smile made me feel like I was the most beloved person in the entire universe. He took one step closer. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then he said my name, not out loud, not with sound.
Isabel.
When he spoke, it wasn't just my ears that heard. His voice moved through me into my chest. My memories, even the parts of me I had forgotten. My whole being answered.
You are with me now.
Tears flowed, not out of fear, but because I knew deep down I had finally found the one who truly saw me. Not as a student, not as a daughter, not as a broken girl, but as me, the one he made. He held out his hand. I reached for it. The moment our hands touched, an explosion of warmth burst inside me. Not heat, but love. Pure, undeserved, total love. In an instant, we were standing on a hill. Below us was the entire earth glowing like a living painting. Cities lit with soft light, oceans shimmering like crystal mountains, resting like ancient guardians. It was beautiful, but he didn't let me stare long.
There is something I must show you.
His tone shifted, still gentle, but now it carried weight, a kind of sadness and urgency. Then he looked deep into my eyes.
My child, a time is coming when I will allow darkness to fall upon the world for 3 days. But before that happens, I will send 3 signs, so my people may prepare their hearts.
My breath caught. 3 signs, darkness. I wanted to ask questions, so many, but something told me to stay quiet and listen.
The first sign will be a sound.
And just like that, I heard it. Not from him, from everywhere. A sound so deep, so beautiful, it felt like the very earth had found its voice. Like the air, the mountains, even space itself, was singing. It went through me, it shook my soul. It made me fall to my knees and cry, not out of sadness, but out of this wild mix of awe and longing.
This sound will echo across the world for 7 minutes, and when they hear it, my people will feel a stirring in their hearts, an urgent call to prepare.
As he spoke, the world below began to shift. People froze in place, some dropped to their knees, some looked to the sky in wonder. Others ran in fear. My heart was pounding. Was this really happening? Was I really hearing the voice of the Son of God? I looked at him, his eyes holding galaxies, and I whispered, "What happens next?" He didn't answer, not yet, but I knew something was coming, something the world wasn't ready for. The moment I took Jesus' hand, it was like every fiber of my being exploded into warmth. Not heat warmth, like the kind that wraps around you when you're a child and your mother tucks you in after a long, tearful day. And in that very instant, the scenery around us dissolved like mist, and we were no longer in the glowing field. We now stood on a great mountaintop. The sky above us was impossibly wide, clearer than any Manila dawn I'd ever seen. Below, I could see the entire earth. Oceans glowing softly, cities flickering like scattered embers, mountains sleeping beneath veils of clouds. I held tighter to his hand. I didn't want to blink. I didn't want to miss a second.
Levi,
He said, his voice low but infinite.
there is a time approaching, a time when the world will be stilled, so that hearts may be awakened.
His eyes like rivers of deep emerald and sapphire locked onto mine. I knew he wasn't speaking in riddles. He was speaking of a real physical event that was going to happen, soon.
I will allow darkness to cover the earth for 3 days. But before it comes, I will give 3 clear signs so no one can say they were not warned.
As he spoke, the ground beneath us shifted. It was no longer earth I stood upon, but a massive canvas that moved like a living map. The first sign unfolded. It began with a sound. At first, I didn't know what I was hearing. It was not like music, yet it carried harmony. Not thunder, but it shook my soul like thunder would. Then it grew like a symphony made by heaven itself. It rose from the earth, from the sky, from every molecule of air, as if the very bones of creation were crying out in song. And we could feel it deep in the chest, rattling ancient doors of the soul that had long been shut.
This sound will last for exactly 7 minutes. Every soul will hear it, and in those minutes I will stir their hearts.
He pointed, and I saw scenes, millions of people stopping mid-step. Some covered their ears, confused and afraid. Others fell to their knees, tears streaming, recognizing something they hadn't felt in decades, or maybe ever. People began calling estranged family members, knocking on doors they'd sworn never to return to, holding their children tighter. But others, they laughed. They plugged their ears. They ran to their devices, trying to drown out the sound with more noise. I whispered, "What are they preparing for?"
The sound will reopen wounds. It will awaken the conscience. It will call them to forgive, to heal. But not all will listen.
Then came the second sign. The mountaintop dissolved again, and suddenly we were in the night sky. Stars twinkled like shattered glass. Then the heavens changed. Streaks of light danced like ribbons, violet, crimson, sapphire, and gold. A divine aurora, more vivid than any painting or photo. It didn't move like light, it moved like intention, as though the lights themselves carried purpose.
For 3 nights, these lights will dance across every sky. No one will miss them. No one will be able to explain them away.
I saw children pointing upward with eyes full of wonder. I saw couples holding hands, weeping quietly. And again, others turned away muttering about science and coincidence, too hardened to see what was being revealed.
Those who heard the sound will understand the meaning of the lights. They will gather. They will pray. They will begin to prepare not just their homes, but their hearts.
I nodded, barely breathing, and the third sign? His expression darkened, not in anger, but in sorrow.
The third sign will be silence.
At that word, the entire universe seemed to stop. Not even wind moved. No birds, no voices, no electricity, nothing. It was the kind of silence that screamed.
For 1 full hour, all machinery will stop. Phones will die. Lights will go dark. Not a single man-made sound will exist. Only what I have created, wind, rain, fire, breath, will be heard.
I watched it. Entire cities frozen in stillness. Cars dead on highways, screens blank. Yet something holy began to happen. People began talking again, to each other, really talking. Neighbors embraced, families gathered. No distractions, just connection.
This will be their final warning. From the end of that hour, they will have exactly 24 hours to prepare before the darkness begins.
I saw candles being lit, matches struck with trembling fingers, children asking questions, elders praying like their lives depended on it. And all across the world, the skies began to dim. I felt a lump in my throat. I turned to him and asked, "Why? Why the darkness? What are you trying to show us?" He looked at me, and his gaze pierced through every layer of who I was.
Because they have forgotten how to be still with me.
He said it with no bitterness, just the deepest, saddest compassion I'd ever heard.
They run from silence. They fill their days with noise, with screens, with distractions. Even when their hearts cry for peace, they silence it with entertainment. But during these 3 days, I will take away all that noise, and those who are ready will finally hear me.
I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. I just cried. The weight of humanity's broken attention, our love for the temporary, our addiction to movement was crushing. And yet his plan was not to punish. It was to awaken. We stood in stillness. I could feel the very air around me shift, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Jesus looked deeply into my eyes. There was sorrow in his gaze, yes, but also compassion, the kind that made you feel known even in your darkest doubts.
Leah, do you know why I must allow the darkness?
I swallowed hard. To wake us up. He nodded gently.
My people have filled their days with noise, distraction, and endless motion. They no longer sit with me. They do not hear my voice, not because I've stopped speaking, but because they've stopped listening.
His words wrapped around me not just in sound, but in sensation, like waves of warmth, sorrow, and urgency all at once.
The 3 days of darkness are not a punishment. They are a sacred pause, a reset, a mercy. It is my way of silencing the world so that the soul may be heard again.
Suddenly, the vision changed. We were above Earth, watching millions of people rushing into buildings, into traffic, into screens. Faces glued to phones, ears plugged with music, hearts full of anxiety. No one looking up, no one slowing down.
Even in their pain, they reach for distractions instead of me. They medicate with dopamine instead of grace. They post their tears on social media rather than weep in my presence. Their hearts have become numb and their spirits thirsty.
The scene darkened. I saw flashes of people scrolling endlessly, bickering in comment sections, families eating in silence with eyes glued to glowing rectangles. Churches turned into shows, prayers replaced with programs, Bibles collecting dust while conspiracy theories flourished.
This generation does not lack knowledge. It lacks wisdom. It does not lack access to me. It lacks desire. And so for 3 days I will remove the noise they crave and offer them what they truly need: stillness, firelight, silence, and me.
I watched the world lose power. The internet disappeared. Satellites went dark. Cars stopped on highways. Lights blinked out across cities. But the fear I expected never came. Instead, families lit candles. Neighbors knocked on each other's doors. Children asked questions, and parents finally had time to answer. Grandfathers told stories. Mothers sang lullabies. Prayers whispered and trembling voices rose like incense. But then the scene shifted again. I saw the other side. People who ignored all 3 signs, the sound, the lights, the silence, they panicked. Some looted stores, others barricaded their homes. Fights broke out over generators, batteries, and food. The darkness meant to bring peace had become their personal nightmare. I saw a young man screaming into his dead phone, trying to reconnect to a digital world that no longer existed. I saw a girl sobbing in terror, shaking a flashlight that no longer worked, unable to face the stillness of her own thoughts. I looked at Jesus, my voice cracked. Why do some respond with love and others with fear?
It depends on the soil of their hearts. Those who have allowed me to till the hard places, bitterness, pride, selfishness, will receive this moment as a gift. But those who harden themselves to love, to truth, to me, the silence will sound like judgment.
My chest ached. The weight of it all, the beauty, the tragedy, the choice pressed into my soul like a storm pressing against windows.
That is why you must speak, Leah. Before the darkness arrives, I send messengers. You are not the only one. There are others, old and young men and women in every corner of the earth, who have seen what you've seen. I am calling my bride to awaken.
I wanted to argue. I felt so small, so ordinary. But he touched my shoulder and said,
Ordinary is what I love most, because when I move through the humble, the world knows it was me.
I remembered my classmates, my TikTok feed, my tiny bedroom with posters on the walls and a stuffed bear on the pillow. I remembered how I used to scroll past anything spiritual, how I laughed at warnings, how I avoided stillness at all cost. But now I craved it. I didn't want to go back to endless scrolling, gossiping, worrying about outfits and likes. I wanted to sit in silence with Jesus forever. But something inside told me that moment was coming to an end. The atmosphere began to change again. The light around us dimmed into a golden twilight. The warmth remained, but it carried a bittersweet ache.
Soon, Leah, but first there is more I must show you.
He extended his hand again, and as I took it, I knew this wasn't just a vision. This was a mission. As we walked further, hand in hand, the radiant sky shifted once again. Now we stood in what looked like a massive, timeless library, but it didn't smell like old books or dust. Instead, it felt alive. Walls of shimmering light pulsed gently around us, and every book floated weightlessly glowing, as if each one was filled with living memory.
This is the archive of souls. Every life, every decision, every moment of love or rejection is recorded here, not to condemn, but to remember, to redeem.
He reached for a glowing orb floating nearby. As his fingers brushed its surface, images exploded all around us like a panoramic movie, snapshots of my life. I saw myself as a baby resting on Mom's chest. A little girl laughing as she chased pigeons in Luneta Park. Me crying in the school bathroom after a cruel comment from a classmate. Every quiet prayer, every tear, every time I chose kindness even when no one noticed.
You think I choose messengers based on strength? Leah, no. I choose based on softness. A heart still tender toward heaven can carry my words with power the proud cannot understand.
I looked at him ashamed. But why me? I'm not religious. I don't even read the Bible every day. I doubted you. I sinned. I hid from the truth. He smiled, not the kind of smile that dismisses, but the kind that restores.
That's exactly why I chose you. Because you know what it means to fall and to get back up. Because your scars make you real, and the world is desperate for real.
Tears streamed down my face. For so long I had believed I was ordinary, that no one would listen to me, that my voice didn't matter. But now in this place beyond time, the creator of the universe was telling me that my voice was exactly what he needed. The scene around us shifted again. Now I saw other young people, Filipino teens like me, each facing silent wars. One was addicted to validation through social media. Another was battling depression, hiding it behind jokes. A girl sat alone in a dark room, scrolling endlessly, tears falling silently as she compared herself to filtered lives on Instagram.
They need your story, Leah, not to scare, but to awaken. Your generation is plugged in, but disconnected, surrounded by information, but starved of truth.
He showed me visions of churches turning into concerts, pastors speaking more about trends than transformation, teens attending Sunday service but walking out unchanged. My heart broke. How will they listen to me? I whispered. I'm just a girl with a secondhand phone and a story no one asked for.
Because the story wasn't for them. It was for you first. You were the one I reached for when your heart stopped beating. You were the one I showed the signs to. You were the one who heard my voice. They will hear it through you.
At that moment, a screen of light appeared before us, showing what would happen if I spoke. And if I stayed silent. If I spoke, some laughed, some ignored, but others wept. A boy in Cebu heard my story and stopped planning to take his own life. A girl in Davao chose to forgive her father after years of hatred. A single mother in Quezon City knelt down in her kitchen and prayed for the first time in decades. But if I stayed silent, the screen faded to black.
You do not have to reach the whole world, just the ones I place before you. One heart, one soul, one act of courage at a time.
I nodded slowly, finally beginning to understand. This wasn't about being a prophet, or a saint, or some miracle girl. This was about being obedient, being willing, and being real. He showed me my mom again, her hands folded, praying beside my hospital bed. Not out of habit, but out of love of desperation. Please, Lord, give me back my daughter.
She is one of many whose prayers helped open this door. You returning is not just a miracle for you, it is an answer to the cries of others.
I stared at the scene, overwhelmed. I didn't feel brave. I didn't feel wise. I felt like a scared girl floating between worlds trying to find her place. But Jesus never asked me to be brave on my own.
You will not go back alone. My Spirit will go before you, behind you, and within you. When you open your mouth to speak, I will fill it. When you feel weak, I will be your strength. And when they mock you, I will hold your tears, because I am the one who sent you.
And with that, I knew I would say yes, not because I was strong, but because he was. Suddenly, I felt it, like I was being pulled backward through time and space, tumbling through light and memory. That perfect warmth, the presence of Jesus was slipping away. I clung to it in my soul, terrified of losing it forever. Then everything went black. And then, a blazing white light pierced my vision, the sterile ceiling of a hospital room, the cold beeping of machines. Harsh fluorescent lights stung my eyes. Something was pressing on my chest. A hand, a voice. Leah, oh God, Leah, can you hear me? My mother's voice. I gasped so hard it burned, like I hadn't breathed for years. My lungs felt like they were on fire. My entire body screamed as I coughed and sucked in air. The room exploded in noise. Nurse, she's responsive. She's back. We have a pulse. She flatlined for 9 minutes. How is this even possible? A doctor leaned over me, stunned like he was looking at a ghost. She shouldn't be alive, he whispered. But I was alive, awake, back. My mother broke down, completely clutching my hands, sobbing, Anak, Anako, oh thank you, Lord. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I remembered everything, every second, every word from Jesus, every image, every feeling. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a hallucination. I had died. And I had been in his presence. They kept me in the ICU for 5 days. They ran every test, brain scans, heart monitors, reflex checks, and every result came back. Normal, perfect even. There's no brain damage, the neurologist said, shaking his head. With this kind of cardiac arrest, and that much time without oxygen, she should have severe deficits. But she didn't. It's a miracle. And it was, but the real miracle wasn't just that I lived. It was what I had seen and what I had been called to do. On the 3rd night in the hospital, when the nurses had left and the machines hummed softly in the background, I finally told my mom everything. I started from the moment I collapsed. I told her about floating above my body, about the beautiful place beyond time, about Jesus. His eyes like oceans, his voice like sunlight, and the 3 signs he showed me before the 3 days of darkness. She listened without blinking. Her hands trembled. When I finished, she said, Leah, for 2 months now, I've had this feeling, like something big is coming. I didn't understand it. But now I know. When I returned home, the world looked different. I was no longer the same girl. TikTok trends, school, gossip, college, stress. All of it felt so small now. I started waking up early just to pray, just to sit in silence and listen. I couldn't stop replaying the signs Jesus showed me. First, the 7-minute sound from heaven that would awaken the soul. Second, the 3 nights of dancing light across the skies. Third, 1 hour of total silence before the darkness falls. They felt etched in my heart. Now every time I heard a siren or saw people fighting or watched the sunset, I'd wonder, are we getting close? I began to write everything down, word for word. I opened a simple blog and posted my testimony. At first, only a few people read it, but then it spread. A girl from Cebu messaged me saying she started praying again after reading it. A pastor from Laguna asked to share it at youth night. People started reaching out not to debate but to cry. They felt something too, a stirring, a shift. Even kids my age, the most skeptical, said, Leah, I don't know why, but I believe you. Of course not everyone believed. Some mocked me. You had a dream. You just want attention. God doesn't talk to teenagers. I cried at first, but then I remembered what Jesus said.
Some will believe, others won't. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to speak. I will handle the rest.
So I kept speaking, even when my voice shook, even when they rolled their eyes, even when it hurt. Because this isn't about me, it's about them, the ones who will recognize the signs, the ones who are still drowning in noise and distraction, the ones who still have time. And now I'm telling you, if you're hearing this story, if your heart is stirring, it's not just emotion, it's Him calling you, preparing you. Don't ignore it. The 3 signs will come, the darkness will come, but so will the light if you choose it. It's been nearly 6 months since I came back from death, and not a single day has passed without that moment returning to me. Jesus standing beside me, eyes full of sorrow and hope, telling me, prepare the world. I used to worry about how people would react. What if they laugh? What if they say I'm making it up? But then I remember what I saw, what I felt, and I realized their opinions don't change the truth. We are standing on the edge of something, a shift, a reckoning, a rescue. And He's giving us the signs ahead of time, not to scare us, but to save us.
The darkness is not punishment, it is invitation, a chance to step away from the noise and come back to me.
Think about it. When was the last time you sat in total silence and just listened for God? When was the last time your phone was off for more than an hour? When was the last time you looked someone in the eyes and really connected? He's calling us to come home, not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, soul first.
When the sound comes, don't run. When the lights dance, don't ignore them. When silence falls, do not fear. I will be there with those who have listened.
This message isn't only for Christians. It's not just for churchgoers. It's for you. Whether you're a student drowning in anxiety, a mother burdened by the weight of survival, a father who's drifted from his faith, a teenager who thinks God forgot you. He hasn't.
I know your pain, I know your fear, but I am still here knocking. Let me in before the storm comes.
If you feel something stirring in your heart as you hear this, don't ignore it. That stirring is not from me. It's not drama. It's Him, calling, reaching, whispering your name. Maybe you think you're too far gone. Maybe you think your sins are too heavy or your past too dirty.
No one is too far gone. Come as you are. I will cleanse. I will restore.
And maybe you're the skeptic, the one who rolls your eyes at every miracle story. That's okay. I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to plant a seed. What happens next is between you and Him. But listen carefully, because the time is short. The 3 signs will come. The sound from heaven echoing across the world. The lights in the sky unlike anything we've ever seen. The hour of total silence where the earth will pause and souls will wake up. And then, darkness. But in that darkness, families will rediscover love. Hearts will return to God. Souls will awaken. If we prepare, if we repent, if we humble ourselves.
Use the time wisely. Forgive quickly. Love deeply. Worship freely. I am coming closer than you think.
I'm just a 16-year-old girl from Quezon City, but I died. And I met Jesus, and I saw what's coming. And now I'm begging you, don't waste the warning. Don't dismiss this as just another emotional story on the internet. Search your heart. Ask God to confirm it. Pick up your Bible. Pray even if you don't know how. The darkness will not be the end. For those who are ready, it will be the beginning of revival, of return, of restoration.
Tell them, Leah. Tell them I love them too much to stay silent. Tell them to get ready not in fear, but in faith.
So I am telling you, please don't wait until the silence falls. Choose Him now. He's been waiting for you all along. If you've come this far with me, if you've listened to the story not just with your ears, but with your heart, then you already know this wasn't just a near-death story. It was a wake-up call. This isn't about fear. It's about faith. It's about hope. It's about coming back to what really matters. The message is simple yet urgent. Jesus is calling. Not just to the perfect, not to the religious elite, but to you, right now, just as you are. We live in a world drowning in noise, in distraction, in division. We chase approval on screens while our souls starve in silence. But in that silence, Jesus is still whispering, come back to me. That's what this whole journey was about. That's why Leah Alonso died. So she could return not just with breath in her lungs, but with fire in her heart to warn us. The signs will come, not to scare us, but to prepare us. You don't need to be a Bible expert. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. Start now. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, and say, Jesus, if you're real, I want to know you. That's it. That's the first step. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Spread the warning. Let others hear what Jesus is trying to say to this generation. Subscribe to Pinoy Faith Stories so you never miss another story of truth, hope, and faith. Leave a comment. Tell us how this message spoke to your heart. Were you shaken, encouraged? Do you feel something stirring in you? Write it down. Your words could change someone else's life. Like this video to help others find it. The more engagement, the more souls reached. Send it to someone who needs to hear that God hasn't given up on them. This may be just another YouTube video to some, but for others, this might be the moment that changes everything. Because once you've heard the truth, you can't pretend you didn't. Prepare your heart, not in fear, but in faith. Thank you for listening. Thank you for opening your heart. And remember, heaven is closer than we think, so let's live like it. This is Pinoy Faith Stories, and this is your moment. Mo